Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. It's been a long time. It's been over 2 weeks, it feels like. Feels kind of like 3 or 4 weeks, nearly a month. My computer is broken. I sent the motherboard in thinking it was that. I will say when taking apart the motherboard, I do think I found some 0 ohm tiny resistors in the RAM slots, which maybe was affecting the RAM and short-circuiting the RAM. But in getting the motherboard back, and they said they tested it and there was nothing wrong with it. The graphics card immediately had problems. So now I am on my 970 graphics card, which is dropping frames like crazy at the moment because of the network, not because of rendering. So I guess that's my network is having trouble. This stream key may be broken since it's been 2 weeks since the stream key has tried to work. But if that was the case, then it would be 100% drop frames, wouldn't it? Okay, well, I guess what I want to do is probably wait a second before we get too deep into this, just to see if this clears out. Because yeah, this network is bad, real bad for what it should be. Yeah, and about the stupidest thing you could do right now would be to do a speed test, but let's do a speed test. Yeah, nothing is really resolved at the moment, so it kind of doesn't matter too much as far as covering what it is. Right now I have my old RAM, which is only like 16 gigs instead of 64 gigs of RAM, so I am totally full up on RAM. That could be another factor, so this could be a very chunky one in that case also. But yeah, so RAM's an issue, and I have my GTX 970, so the graphics card's an issue. Any part, the motherboard, I'm not going to get any more help on the motherboard. The only other thing, now I could try and send back the graphics card and hope that that's the problem and replace the RAM fairly quickly. I'm going to try and give it about a week just to make sure nothing else shows up, because with new RAM, with a allegedly good motherboard and my old graphics card, the only thing left is the CPU. I'm using the old power supply. I did the possible things. Yeah, it says I have plenty of upload as far as on my cell phone speed test. There's just like there's increasing things that could be wrong, and I really don't have a solution. When I was putting my computer together, I noticed one of the case fans cords had been ripped out, so it's possible that the power cord had just been short-circuiting and flapping about too. So yeah, there's just no telling whether it was power outages that broke a bunch of things, or one thing, or ripping out the DVI cord. I do have my third monitor now on the same circuit, same battery backup. So I've made a lot of changes in the 2 weeks. I didn't really accomplish a ton of stuff, but I have made a lot of progress on non-video game stuff. I also want to talk about like the Nintendo Switch, because I did play a little bit of this. It's only been the 3-month anniversary of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. It feels like it's been a lot longer than that because of just how much has happened. They have totally changed how this looks in the past couple of days. I've not been playing a ton, but I've been trying to stay up a little bit with daily logins and daily quests. So, yeah, with the automatic launching of the program, there's a lot there. They've moved the lifetime duel down. This 30 millionth downloads had already been complete. But now, when you log in, you get kind of a daily notification of things. And it doesn't feel like there is too much that you can do to mark things as read. There's a new deck here. We will buy that. New selection pack here. We should buy, I think, at least 30 packs of that. Game gyms are on sale again. New gates added in solo mode. Because my computer was just broken, like, it's not like I could pre-record videos or do anything else like that. I could have brought out my old computer, but my old computer is quickly becoming, like, unusable as I'm salvaging parts from it to try and get my new computer to work. And now is not really a great time to have to build a whole new computer. I'd like to wait until second generation of DDR5 compatible motherboards and CPUs come out. I feel like I kind of prematurely built this new computer, and it was within one generation of my old computer. Or it would have been better if it had been a generation ahead. The fact that my old computer uses DDR4 and my new computer uses DDR4 is a problem. Let's go ahead and collect the remaining of this, since this is about as much as this is going to happen. Percentage of dropped frames is slowly going down now, so I think the internet issue, whatever it was, is going to be cleared up. So some more crafting points and a new mate. That way, if I can't stream again, I'm going to try and stream. I may, just to catch up, stream every day this week. I may, to catch up, even after catching up, switch over to Tuesday and Thursday streams. You kind of can get away with that, I think, a little bit more. As far as Yu-Gi-Oh! The question is, can I get away with that as far as news? And I don't know if I can or I can't. Like, Tuesday and Thursday almost demands than Saturday also, or Sunday. And just to balance things out. Alright, let's see, we've got some new accessories here. So we have a ton of gems. So there's no reason not to just go ahead and waste gems on everything that's new. It's not like these are particularly expensive. The most expensive is the playfield, and they're making you purchase these things when it would have been nicer, frankly, to just give these away for free, but I'm not going to complain too much if it's cheap. We still don't have new dual pass or new bundle pass. We do have this, which we can buy 3 times. Suppose we should look at what the cards are. It's not even a good way to look at it. Yeah, if we have just one of most of these, it is super easy to just say, buy this 2 more times. And then that gives us that. And let's see, we have no secret packs, but we're going to potentially start to run into secret packs with the new selection packs. Let's check our gift box here and just see how much of this we can receive. We have 620 on top of this much, so probably don't want to go too far. So the new selection one, interesting. I think this fusion potential is new. Yeah. So I think we start there. And then almost certainly this refined blade is new. Kind of have a decent amount of that, so maybe we only want to get like 20 packs of that instead of 30. Whereas I'm fairly certain Beyond Speed, like we've already done and we've gotten a decent amount of that. It would not make a lot of sense to go back and try and get any more of those. Same I think is true for this pack. Yeah. And 30 really feels to be about the right thing. Like, if this were Yu-Gi-Oh, if this was Hearthstone, I would get like 50 packs, certainly, but it definitely doesn't work that way. So yeah. So I've been playing Super Mario Odyssey, and Nintendo has started to do this thing where you beat the game halfway through beating the game. We're going to also open a ton of secret packs, and that'll be a new consideration, certainly. It's a slight spoiler to Super Mario Odyssey to say that there are 999 moons you can collect. It is a slight spoiler to also say that you can actually beat the narrative and the story of the game with, I think, somewhere around 400 moons, 450 moons. And getting moons is a lot easier than it was to get stars in Super Mario 64, where there was only 150 of them. And I think that is the right direction, certainly, to just shorten that cycle of struggle to victory. But they've also cheated somewhat in Mario Odyssey, because all of the races, there was basically only 3 or 4 races in Mario 64, and it is definitely fair to compare. There we go, we have like a foil version, I think, of an ultra rare. That's pretty great. There's a pull. Like, Mario Odyssey is directly a sequel to Mario 64, much more than like Mario Sunshine or Mario Galaxy, which went off in slightly different directions with the flood and with the gravity mechanics in Mario Galaxy. Plus, in Mario Galaxy, you're not really doing with Princess Peach, and you're not really doing with Princess Peach even in Mario Sunshine. But by hiding all the races after you've beaten the narrative, they have made it, they've limited the amount of time you really want to play Mario Odyssey, and they've given you very difficult races to do. So I don't know if I'm really going to get to 999 specifically because of the races. Also, there's a whole bunch of coins that you need to collect that you really won't have collected, particularly if you waste any of them at looking for hints. There's just a ton of coins you would need to collect to get costumes, and the only way that any of that makes any sense is if you play the Luigi's Balloon World And if you just don't like Luigi's Balloon World, which is this post-game, like free DLC concept that they were experimenting with, obviously, to try and keep you just playing Odyssey forever to buy themselves time. Honestly, I felt like the Mario's Balloon World, Luigi's Balloon World was a different DLC completely than what it actually is. I thought it was going to be a collection of really hard to find Luigi's green balloons just in the overworld, and you had to find them. As far as I can tell, that's not what it is. It's other players placing their gold balloons in places in the level, in the areas, the overworld, and then you have to either find them or hide your own. It's just hide and seek, basically. And you have to play a decent amount of that to get the coins to get all the costumes. And once you've done all of that, you'll have the costumes and have no opportunity to really use them in anything. It's really, really dumb. I just don't know what they were thinking there. So yeah, we got decent cards here. I'm not sure particularly what the difference between this card and this card is. Let's see. Looks exactly the same, so I don't know why it's in a different pile like this, but it does seem odd that that is what they're doing now, is you've got all these different piles. Okay, let's open another tin pack of this. And yeah, it just feels like the post game is very much an afterthought. It's where they threw all the difficult things so that more little kids can beat it. It's not a terrible thought. Pokemon Snap also is like that. There's a lot more game to Pokemon Snap after you've beaten the main game, more than likely, because if you're going to really try to be OCD and get like platinum, silver versions of each photo, you're going to have to put a lot more time into it. And I suspect there is actual content in Pokemon Snap that you can't you can't really do anything. But I really didn't play that much time with the Switch. I spent a couple days with it, and then I started working on other projects. I wasn't bored out of my mind for the past couple of weeks not recording games, but I was definitely feeling that I was going to get to that. The beauty of having a lot of backburnered projects is that this little forced vacation let me start to catch up on some of those. And if anything, every year, if I have enough recordings ahead, I probably should take a mini vacation where I still live stream but don't do any pre-recording footage for a couple of weeks, even maybe a month. January would be kind of like a great time to just say, hey, let's not bother to record anything during that month. Or it doesn't have to be January. Actually, it could be pretty much any month because of it being ahead in pre-recordings, as long as I am ahead in pre-recordings. But yeah, I've been working fairly hard to get rid of the Circuit Playground Express that I got for free a year ago. Program it to do something nice and just give it away as a gift, because I'm not going to do anything else with it. I will say it's kind of a shame, and definitely right now with the chip shortage, we're not going to see any real improvement on it, but the concept of the Circuit Playground Express as a teaching tool, as a cheap device that people can program using CircuitPython or make code, it's not It's not a bad device. It's just, it probably needs to be a little bit faster. Probably needs to have a couple more features. There's, I imagine, just room for economy of scale there to improve upon it. I guess we'll do another 10, but we are starting to definitely see a lot of cards that have 3 copies of this. I don't know if the Circuit Playground Blue Fruit is worth the extra cost just to have Bluetooth. But yeah, really, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi would be the thing that could take it to the next step. And I'm not sure if the BBC microbit could ever be improved to make it a better concept, or the mag tag, which the mag tag I think potentially has more practical use but less educational use, and I wouldn't think of anything else being particularly great. The M5 paper is too expensive of a device. The thing is, it needs a screen instead of just the Circuit Playground Express just having LEDs. Like, it needs Wi-Fi, it needs a screen, and at a certain point, as far as teaching gadgets, it might be better just to have a like feather with a or a trinket device with a screen attached, and the stimma concept of just plugging in specific devices that do very specific inputs and outputs. The stimma concept is the better idea. Like, there's no reason to have accelerometers and light sensors and LEDs on every single Circuit Playground Express when every project that they teach there really only focuses on one of those features at a time. One or two of them, usually the LEDs to display the input of something like the accelerometer. Whereas the stimma concept of having to plug in and unplug things based on what features you're actually going to use makes it cheaper, makes it make more sense. And it makes the device smaller. Well, not that the device needs to be really that smaller. But yeah. So I've been doing programming on that just to be done with it. And I've been working on my bookcases to display my massive Lego collection, and I'm almost completely done. I should be completely done with that on Wednesday, by Wednesday or around Wednesday. I'm just ordering some grommets to hide my terrible holes that I drilled in to put in LED lighting, and so like, and then I'm having to solder the LED and cut the LED aluminum channels, because they're not exactly the right length of the table, which they never were going to be. Yeah, so you can see here, there are definitely some we only got one of, some we got none of. But when you start to look at this, you're getting like 7 copies of these, 6 copies of this. Some of these ones, I really wish this was more of a system. Actually, I think I do want to buy another 10, because if I've only got 2 copies of these normals, that's pretty bad. But yeah, on the LEDs, soldering LED strips to LED strips, I can do. Arguably, you shouldn't even bother to try to do that, because the tiny pads are really, really close together, really, really small. You just don't have a lot of room to solder there. And I'm not the best of solderer. My hands shake. And so there's just definitely problems there with that. And then I totally could not solder the wire to the pads to make a longer extension wire. So they make extension kits that just clamp on, and you should use that. Connecting strip to strip and connecting strip to wire to strip further away. In my case, arguably in almost every scenario, LEDs are going to just be an LED strip is going to be right next to the next LED strip. So it's not surprising that there isn't a lot of consideration for longer extension wire connections. But yeah, in my case, the way the LED lights are going, I need that extra connection. But after that, I'm going to be done. I definitely made a stupid mistake as I was drilling holes into the bookcases, and had to do some kind of patchwork there, and made a huge amount of mess because these bookcases are obviously just made out of cheap particle board, so it's just dust all over the place. But I learned from my mistakes fairly quickly, learned to measure twice, 3, 4 times, and then cut once. And so I progressively got better, which that's the way all projects go. Like, every project I've ever done ends with, boy, if I could do this the second time, I would do this a lot better. Because I've learned just so much as far as just practical application of things versus the theoretical application of ideas. Like, you can really only plan so much before it just becomes crippling, anxiety, agonizing over something. And sometimes it is better to fail fast and fail often than it is to overplan and just demand that no mistakes are ever made. That's probably a problem with the school systems, and I don't want to get into any rants today. In fact, I'm talking too much even in the catch-up for 2 weeks because we've got so much news, and we're going to basically skip talking about any games that came out. I'm going to try and go back and curate those on the off time, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so here's where we've got to make a tough decision. Is it going to be worth it to potentially open 30 packs here and have only 20 packs of secret packs, or should we touch upon these secret packs and see what we've got? Let's start with the first one. Cards included in this pack. How many of these do we not have anything with? Yeah, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of this. So, and this is an odd selection, secret pack. What's the deal here? Oh, featured cards in this pack. Alright, we have a decent amount of featured cards in this pack, so that's probably not the one we want to do. Featured cards. We have a decent amount of those featured cards too, so that's probably not what we want to do either. What we need to do is find one that has very, very little to no featured cards. If we're going to do any of them. We may not really want to do any of them, which is fine because these secret packs are somewhat of a scam in how they present things. Like, this would be the absolute worst secret pack to go with, unless you just absolutely wanted these cards, and I'm not even going to begin to pretend like I'm paying attention to what these cards are enough that I would want to get them. I still have yet to be able to even build one deck. This one wouldn't be a terrible thought to get. Yeah, we'll get a 10-pack here of this. But remember, these cards don't really work the same way. You seem to have a slightly higher chance of getting new cards even in the Master Duel collection, but the pickup cards of the 8 cards you get, only 4 of those are the featured cards. So if you were paying the same amount of money, which you basically are, in gyms for this pack, you're lowering your odds by at least 50% to actually get the cards you want. So you have to be kind of careful here. I have no idea. Interesting. As far as when the next real expansion or addition of new cards would be added, or when something big would happen. Like it's really been 3 months and they're doing festivals and things, and there's that whole new festival they were talking about, the Fusion Festival, but I'm not sure when we're gonna see our first major change to Master Duel. At a certain level, Konami can kind of just they probably would make a mistake if they waited too much longer to get new players. Like, I think the 6-month mark clearly, fancy. 6-month mark would clearly be the point to say, hey, let's put out a new expansion. And I hope secretly in the background that's what they're working on. But it is totally believable also that Konami would just drop the ball completely. Wow, 3 super rares. We found a new card pack, so I don't think I would want to go any deeper down this route. Anyways, so let's go to this new card pack. Look at the featured cards. Again, seems like it's probably worth it. But yeah, there definitely was other projects. Had I been forced to do nothing otherwise, I would have started to consider working on my server. Interesting, that opens up 2 different secret packs. Like, I haven't worked on my servers at all. I'm still kind of waiting for technology improvements as far as ZFS version 2.0 to come to Debian. So that's a good excuse to not work on it. I did move my laser printer out of one room into another as I'm trying to empty out one room, but I also have a desk there that I want to dismantle. I also have a TV I have to pick up from like curbside pickup later this evening, which is going to kind of limit how long I can stream. With the RAM being so limited, I am at just like 100% RAM right now, which that you can feel that performance hit, certainly, when you have Chrome eating up basically 16 gigs of RAM. I really wish Chrome would improve the way it sandboxes items. Like, because it's sandboxing the process, each process I think is downloading the same images multiple times, whereas there should probably be some kind of secure enclave, I guess would be what I'd call it, to a shared resource database of read-only images and HTML files and elements on an HTML page to reduce the amount of RAM being used. And that's something that not only Chrome needs to do, that's going to be what needs to happen in all browsers going forward. And see, certainly now we're running into a problem where we're opening like 11 secret packs. I don't have enough really to go down that route too much as far as I just don't have enough gems. And it would just go on forever, certainly. There is no end to this. The more gems you spend, the more secret packs you're going to open, or extend at the very least, to push you towards something more. I don't think I'd do another one of that. Then we have more of this. And see, I don't even know where we are. I guess we'll just look here. There's an argument to opening that one, certainly, but not so much an argument to opening that one. Not so much of an argument to opening that one. This is the one we did open, and you can see now we have a decent amount of those cards. We're getting percentages of a full secret pack, and maybe down the road I'll have so many gems that I'll start getting secret packs, and I'll be so desperate to spend gems that I'll just say, if there's even one ultra rare that's not collected, there's an argument to opening that one. That at that point, if I'm just desperate to spend gems, that might be the way it goes. Not that I should spend all my gems. Anyways, there's a lot of card packs certainly that just look like have cards that look like the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's the same concepts over and over again. Yeah, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. And then we have 62 days to go with this. So do I want to open 3 10 packs now? Let's open at least 2 10 packs, and then we'll see at that point. I did manage to do a couple Lego things. I did the Harley Davidson Lego Expert Fat Boy set. It's a nice little model, although I'm questioning how many models I really want to get. I worked on my Christmas village and changed all the base plates out and organized that. I'm quickly realizing anytime I knock something around or accidentally bump anything, if it has a clamp piece on it, that clamp piece will break off, which definitely sucks. But yeah, I'm finding that I'm probably gonna have to just move some Lego pieces completely, like replace them if they have a clamp with a different design for safety and stability. It also is very dusty, very cobwebby after just a couple of years of having the Lego sets set around. So I don't think there's actual spiders crawling on it, but there's definitely dust and flying around to make dust balls. And I have a little makeup brush I use to try and dust the sets, but I'm not doing it regularly. I did this giant treehouse set. It's giant. It's big. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to integrate it into the Lego city at all. It's just so big. It's not really out of the minifig scale. It's just this giant treehouse is going to be bigger than hospitals and city halls and other sets of the Lego City sets compared to the Lego Expert Creator sets. Even like the 3-story tall Creator Expert movie theater is slightly shorter than this giant tree. So it's big, to say the least. Let's go ahead and just see how many of these we got now. I don't know if this really tells me enough, actually. Let's go ahead and jump over to this. Nope, no reason to open that one. And then let's see. Yeah, I think there's room for at least one more 10-pack here. Wow, not a single ultra rare pack. That was a bad pull. That doesn't mean there isn't an ultra rare in these cards. It just means there's nothing guaranteed to be an ultra rare. I don't think I did any other Lego sets though, and there's definitely still quite a backlog of Lego sets. I have moved myself mentally now to the point where I'm going to start flattening the Lego boxes I have. They're taking up way too much space, and I'm just trying to downsize and compress how much space I'm taking up. So literally flattening them instead of leaving them as square boxes will take up considerably less space. It still keeps the art and only slightly modifies / damages the boxes. I have been keeping like all the plastic bags in the boxes. I think I will, in flattening the boxes, also get rid of that and just recycle all the plastic bags. Like, it was a silly fantasy that at some point I might take apart a set, put them back in the bags, and rebuild the whole thing from the beginning. But at 45 minutes, I don't know if there was anything else to say as far as just the catch-up section. I have not been looking at Twitter because my computer's been broken. So any minor conflicts or bits of information probably have passed me by. We do have the old video game news stuff, and we're gonna try and burn through this very quickly. Like, I think we may even try something different today. Like we may do a 5-minute game focusing just on the game, and then we may do 5 minutes of news not playing a game or something along that lines. Let's check out this pack. Now I'm desperately low at this point, so if they were to give me a pack that is kind of short on people, which this one kind of is, it's going to be a hard decision. Alright, let's think about Shrouded Heroes or more of this. I don't think we need more of this. Yeah, I think we're good there. So let's go to Shrouded Heroes. And let's take a 10-pack there. Oh, we need to check something else out too. I really wish Master Duel would raise that limit. Having you held down to a limit of 10,000 gems is just kind of ridiculously low. Like, should be 100,000 at minimum. I will say these selection packs do still seem like they give you a higher chance of getting new cards. So there might be different odds. As it were. As far as just whether you'll get new cards. And you can see we're opening up new secret packs, and might as well not bother to look, but for the curiosity's sake we will. But yeah, while I accomplished a couple things, I definitely, while not being able to play games, recognize that if I started going through 2 or 3 sets of Lego a week, that's gonna be somewhere around a couple $100 a week in Lego sets, and there just aren't that many Lego sets after about a month or so that you'd even want. It gets really expensive really fast compared to Steam sales and games for $5. If I was going to stick to just playing Nintendo Switch games, I was gonna very quickly run out of Nintendo Switch games to play. Like, I need to order 1 Switch game and already, but that's about it. It's just a ridiculous amount of selection packs there. Moving things around and organizing is already led to plans to buy more furniture to be better organized. Moving furniture around leads to plans to buy more furniture. So, like, playing video games is incredibly cheap, particularly after that main cost of building a computer, which is the most expensive part. That's why it's so important for computer components to last and be something that you can make a good amount of use for. And even sending back the motherboard, like, it was definitely a lot cheaper to send back a motherboard and have them tell me certify that it still works and it's fine than it would have been to just buy a new motherboard, even in the shipping and handling being ridiculous. It's definitely going to be a lot cheaper to send back and potentially repair or replace a graphics card than it is just to buy a new graphics card, which certainly is the faster solution. Would have been to buy another one and then send back the other one and have two, but you have to be pretty rich to take on that solution. So there is this one that I probably should take, and then this one, which I probably should take even more, but it's just going to keep on going. And this one, even fewer cards. And if these secret packs didn't have timers on them, that would be great. I would love to just be able to unlock a secret pack, and maybe the secret packs get closed once you have 3 copies of each card, so they go away after that instead of a timer. That would be fine. Okay, we did get an ultra rare in the last purchase. Same is true here. So we didn't get shortchanged in a 10-pack purchase by not getting even a single ultra rare. And again, you would have to just kind of try and guess as far as what the percentage of all the cards you have are. Seems like it's probably higher now than it was before, obviously, but decent amount of cards still missing. And I suppose it wouldn't hurt to open a bunch of these. Do we want to watch the opening pack animations? We've been watching them for a while now. Let's skip that and just see that now we have a lot of new cards, but not 100% new cards. So these legacy packs are definitely not creating a situation where you're always guaranteed a new collection of cards. Let's just do that some more. I definitely don't recognize a lot of these cards, which, since these are called legacy cards, that seems weird. Still getting a ton of new cards though. Do we want to bring it down to 70 instead of just potentially... Some of these cards I definitely do recognize. Yeah, but what they mean by legacy is definitely a lot more cards than I ever saw, because I did not pay a lot of attention to Yu-Gi-Oh! After the first couple anime seasons, and I was never deep into playing the game. I don't think I've ever played even a single real-world game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Here we have a ultra rare pack, which did give us one ultra rare. Still getting a lot of new cards. But yeah, once I get this one room completely cleaned out, or as cleaned out as I can get it, it's not like much is going to happen there. Once I get all the Lego sets that I'm done, that I want to do done, it's not like anything new happens there. Unlike playing video games, you can't just move on to the next video game. Once I program... Ooh, this is a terrible draw. The Circuit Playground Express, I'm totally done with that. Some of the other projects that I've backburnered are either waiting or just not really high priority things. there definitely is a feeling that I would just get potentially more desperate as time went on if I couldn't play video games. It's not like I'm gonna change my life completely. At a certain point, if I just couldn't play video games, I'm gonna start watching like every single anime DVD I have on my bookshelf, and that would take an incredibly long amount of time, and that's what I was doing before when I had taken my hiatus from playing video games previously. But also in that hiatus from playing video games, I was incredibly depressed and often didn't want to play video games or watch anime. I definitely watched some things on Netflix too, but that's about it. Yeah, I think if we look here, what we probably would want to do is just hold on to anymore. I just don't want to open any more packs, frankly. I'm just gonna be more honest about it. We've opened plenty of packs. Now I've rambled for 55 minutes. But yeah, life for me definitely is not better without a computer and without video games. In fact, it eventually becomes a nightmare scenario. There is, in my mind, very, very little difference between me not having a computer and me being homeless begging on the street. Because like that's kind of the next step. I'm just not health wise in a position where I would want to go and try and work at some kind of 9-to-5 job and just to make money and just to not be able to do anything because I'd be working my life away and just not have the energy and the time. And that's a sad problem with a lot of people, certainly, is that they either have to work to pay bills and then they can't enjoy life at all. They're having to sell all of their free time, all of their time away, instead of just part of their time away. And certainly I did that in the past when I was younger and more capable of doing that, and it was a nightmare. Like, to wake up one day after 5 years and realize you've wasted 5 years of your life working and making money for a corporation, and to realize you've not really played any video games, you've not enjoyed life in any way. Okay, we can see that there is a decent amount of addition on the solo too, including a duel training, duel strategy 2. I wonder if doing this would give you a deck. See, you get a card, some gems. This probably is beneficial to have this, certainly a card. You get a mate after doing that. Another card for doing that one. Another card for doing that one. It's funny how you have to use the mouse wheel to scroll here. And some gems for that one. So nothing super important there. I'll do that when I get some free time. We'll go through Duel Trolling 2 and we'll do some solo stuff. But clearly we need to look at the deck. We have a new button here that does that. Cool. I suppose. Let's go ahead and edit this deck. You've acquired new cards that are among the cards that you don't own in the deck. Put them in the card, yes. Alright, so that puts us in a better position, certainly, with this Zodiac Tri-Brigade deck may actually be somewhere. It's like we've got a long scroll here of cards where we put it with cards we don't own. Let's see. We can see we are now somewhere around a third of all cards have been collected. At least one copy. Which that is something, certainly. So now, if we dismantle all extra cards, that would give us 840 extra normal crafting points, 940 rare crafting points, 10 extra ultra rare crafting points, and not a single super rare extra crafting point, but not bad. This is really, it would be nicer if it was just all one currency. So crafting this, I guess we could generate that. Crafting this, we could generate that. And crafting this, we could generate that. So we've got the cards. Generate one. Generate two. Generate three. And there was another secret rare. Generate one of those. We are just barely enough. Generate one of those. And generate one of those. And finally, we have enough. We have all the cards needed. Let's click here. And see, this is the point where you get the one free pull. So let's get that one free pull, which is just your taste, certainly, of you get a free pull if you craft cards that give you crafting things. But it really is just a taste. Certainly. And how many of these cards do we have? Decent enough not to open a 10 pack. Then we have to kind of go back to the shop because we have another free pull. And it should be marked down here at the bottom. Yep, one pack, one free pull. When you have the one free pull, that's all you can do at the moment. But this will also disappear, I imagine, after 24 hours, so you want to definitely do the free pull now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my network. Like, I've got so many problems right now with my computer. I'm assuming it's just a RAM issue. But it is seemingly dropping a lot of frames, so apologies for that. Alright, well, this is a great step forward, certainly, because this also means now I can finally stop playing the pre-built deck, which had been driving me crazy anyways. Dismantle those couple extra things. I could probably spend a decent amount of resources trying to craft a bunch of normal cards, but yeah, you probably want to sit on about 5,000 crafting points, because let's see, if you were to generate this for 30 and there's 30 cards, then you would need 30 times 30, which is not 90, 900 crafting points. If you were going to do an entire deck of normal cards plus another, I guess, 15 here, so 120, yeah. So 1,200 crafting points probably is what the minimum you want to have, just in case there's a festival that says all normal cards, or you want to make a 100% normal card deck. Getting super rare and ultra rare up to 1,200 200 it would be kind of hard, certainly, but ideally. What's kind of irritating, I will say, as far as all the updates they've done, they still have yet to make a way to exit the game. Alright, so the Fusion Festival exhibition is coming, and so we can deal with all of that later as far as what cards we'll deal with and play with. And let's see what the reward tiers, because it was up to like 2,000 points in the first couple of festivals, then it went up to like 2,200. Now it's 22,000. Yeah, I think it was 20,000 before, so it is getting a little bit more expensive. This is going to last 11 days, so again, I may have to struggle quite a bit to get all that to work. I also got knocked down to silver, so I want to get back up to gold before this ends on the 31st, which shouldn't be too hard. Okay. This deck cannot be used for duels because it does not meet the limit regulations. What does it not meet? Oh, there's too many of these. Okay, well then we need to add something here. Just make a quick change there and see if that works. Now I can play with it. Yep. Interesting, no audio when it was matching there. Yeah, just everything was messed up on my OBS and all of that as far as the audio, and I've seen that happen before, but certainly sucks. Okay, we got a new button here. Let's see what this is. Is this gonna auto draw? Is this going to now allow us to potentially not have to do the draw? Because I frankly find that fairly annoying. Let's see. Let's start with this, and then special summon something here. Let's see if this makes it bigger. Oops. See what... Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing here, so... this is supposed to be a really top-tier meta deck, from what I saw, although I don't know if I've really seen people play this. Yeah, I definitely am getting a lot of cards. Just gotta figure out what they... what they're supposed to do, and I'm doing too much, obviously. I'm gonna say no to that. See if we can special summon something bigger. I don't think so. I think we now attack and potentially win the game. In a one-turn kill that was very awkward, certainly. Not quite a one-turn kill, but let's see. Concessionaire. I bet the symbol there is the auto placement, and that was a connection failed, and 42,000 reward there. Quick victory, no damage, over 3,000 activated spells. Let's see, we've got a card, very normal card, very normal card. It almost makes sense that you'd get these normal cards first, and then a couple legacy pack tickets and another legacy pack ticket. So that seemed like that worked fairly well. And see, the problem here is we're gonna now really have to bounce. So, like, we've done a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's do a little bit of news. And I'm going to try and burn through all of this real fast. Double Fine has some jobs openings, a graphics programmer, a producer. Leave it at that. I don't even think we're going to run into any adult content today. GameDeveloper.com has an obituary for the Ocean Software co-founder David Ward, dying at age 75. A lot of these old first generation game companies, we're going to hear a lot of this. He made an array of ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64 games. The Ocean Low label is recognizable to me, but certainly I don't think they made anything relevant by today's standards. At 75, it's totally believable that that was mostly natural causes that killed him. Nothing particularly suspicious at that age would be my first assumption. Let's see. A lot of these pages I'm going to have to update my ad blocker on, certainly too. New Dead Space remake live stream has been confirmed according to Video Games Chronicles. Definitely to me, and I'm going to try really hard not to throw in a ton of opinions just to save time. Definitely to me feels like there is a chance that there is that this Dead Space remake is just going to be done by committee, and that they're just going to have these live presentations throwing out general ideas as far as how the remake and tweaks will be. They're going to see if there's any pushback or if people like it or dislike it, and if anybody dislikes it enough, they're going to change it to whatever the mass audience wants, which probably won't work, but I just don't think there actually was ever a plan to make a Dead Space remake before the original creators of Dead Space announced their own game, and now it's just out of pure spite, I think, that they're making a remake and they hadn't thought of it, so now they're throwing it to the general public to tell them what they want to make. What you don't really feel is like there's somebody with passion that really wanted to remake Dead Space. Let's see. GameDeveloper.com has an article here. Chinese regulators want to restrict how young people engage with live streamers. It will now be harder for young people to become live streamers or engage with their favorite content creators. I'd heard some of this, but I'm not sure how far this is going to go. Almost certainly it's going to be really controlling and totalitarian. But some of this definitely was going to stop them from being able to donate to streamers after a certain time. But clearly they're going to put in all kinds of ridiculous limitations to make it nearly impossible to play games. Of course, I imagine the Chinese people right now have a lot bigger problems, and honestly, I'm not sure if this isn't if after this whole pandemic is finally admitted to be completely over by every government, we find that thousands upon thousands more people have died or been disappeared off to some concentration camp in the guise of pandemic activities. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, like when you have a country like China where there's just billions and billions of people, if you got rid of 10, 20, 30% of your population, you still have plenty of people, and it's not like you need that big of a population with automation and everything. I think that's getting into a rant again, so I'm trying to avoid that. The delayed Resident Evil Reverse has been rated for Stadia, which they might as well have just abandoned Reverse. It's over a year delayed, I believe. According to IGN, EA is making a Lord of the Rings mobile game. The upcoming collectible RPG will be free to play. Interesting that Warner Brothers is not making a Lord of the Rings mobile game. This might be a hint, certainly, towards the idea that Warner Brothers may be purchased by EA, because Warner Brothers is potentially on sale, if anybody can really afford them. Yeah, that wouldn't be super surprising if there was kind of a merger of almost equals between EA and Warner Brothers, and then all of a sudden EA it tries to make a little bit more games and focus a little less on EA Sports. And then you start to see a lot of EA bad policies and microtransactions potentially move into Warner Brothers properties like Lord of the Rings, Batman games, things like that. Video Games Chronicles says 3D Realms' original Duke Nukem Forever from 2001 is leaked online, which that would certainly be an interesting comparison. If I started to if somebody actually played the original Duke Nukem Forever versus what the final Duke Nukem Forever was, this doesn't look particularly great. It definitely feels a little different from what the final version of the game was. I don't know if it's any better. It had it been released at that time. Let's see. I ran my macro, so it kind of worked, but then I also went back and then just scrolled back 2 weeks. So we have things like watch 10 minutes of FIFA's 2021-2022 new Miami track. I'm not interested in that. That's from Video Games Chronicles. Classic maps could be coming to Halo Infinite, teases Joseph Staten, not to be confused with Joseph Stalin, I suppose. However, it's unclear when they could be introduced. Almost certainly the classic map should have been available day one. Reggie Fils-Aimé, in his book, I imagine, says localizing Mother 3 didn't make business sense. The 2006 GBA game has never been officially translated. There's several things Reggie Fils-Aimé has been quoted, I think, from his book. The Gotham Knights could be upgrading its co-op to 4 players. The game had previously been confirmed for a 2-player co-op. Is that going to be couch co-op 4 players? I don't know. Kind of would make sense, but also I think there's a news story where they're talking more about focusing in on only 2 of the characters instead of all 4 of the characters. It is a little too much to have 3 Robins and a Batgirl as your main players. Apparently, Ron Gilbert is, quote, sad about the negative reaction to the return to Monkey Island art style, which... The art style, to me, did not look terribly different from the original game, but it's not pixely. Certainly, you really can't make a game in modern times that is just going to be at a 640 by 480 resolution and pixely is all get out. And I would almost say the art style of this teaser and that is being shown is not really that different from the original game. Like, this looks like the original game to my memory. As someone who only played Monkey Island a couple of years ago, it looks fine to me. The quote here is, "It's the art style I wanted," which is fine. Whatever. Like, Ron Gilbert should do what he wants to do and not listen to the people and make a vote by committee game. In the same way that Dead Space Remake shouldn't be a vote by committee game. Gamatsu says a game called Soldiers has been delayed to June 2nd. I don't recognize this game. That is what is going to definitely suffer the most in me taking this break, or being forced to take a 2-week break, is now there's just going to be even more stuff in my mind that I just don't recognize and don't remember. Deliver Us Mars developer Diary Episode 1, Journey to the Red Planet. If you want to check that out. From Gamatsu, Unpacking for the PS5, PS4 launches May 10th. Final Fantasy 16 latest trailer already complete and coming soon, says the producer Naoki Yoshida. Which, yeah. Particularly now that Square Enix has sold off all the Western companies, they really have to double down on Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest in their Japanese products. A game called Alicia, the Oblivion of Twin Goddesses has been delayed to the later in 2022. This is the first I've even heard of this game. A game called Outward Definitive Edition launches May 17th. And as I get further and further into history, just these announcements are going to become less and less relevant, so apologies for that. A pre-apocalyptic co-op action game called Crossroads has been announced. Pre-apocalyptic is interesting, but what that really means. It seems like this would be during an apocalypse, not pre-apocalypse, unless they're talking about just the beginning of apocalypse or slightly before an apocalypse. Perhaps the apocalypse itself technically means the exact final act of what a general person would describe the apocalypse as. There is a biblical terminology for the apocalypse that's different than Armageddon, but I'd have to look up the definitions just to be certain which one I was actually talking about. Most people interchange the two as the same. But one of those two terms is specifically talking about a Christian biblical end, where the other one is a more general term. Moving on, Gamatsu says a top-down roguelike shooter called B-Bots for PC launches this fall. Which, okay. MiHoYo launches a countdown website for a new title called Zenless Zone Zero, which sounds like this might be a game like 999 in the nonary complex, but I don't even know if MiHoYo would have anything to do with that. It's not a terrible name though. Zenless Zone Zero catches your eye or your ear. This week's Japanese game releases were the Centennial Case of Shijimi Story, the Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, and more. Dead by Daylight Ultimate Edition. Yeah, some of these articles may be very old. The Future You've Been Dreaming Of has a debut trailer. It's coming out for the Switch on May 19th. There was one interesting thing about the Mario Odyssey is apparently it does have some way in which you can play it in some kind of form of VR. I imagine that's putting the Switch in a cardboard VR headset that they tried that with. I doubt you'd experience much with that. I will also have to... This is a life simulation game where you're just going to be hanging out with an anime girl. Yeah, I dare not press play on this video. The idea of VR for Switch though definitely was abandoned very quickly. I played Odyssey with an adapter to use an Xbox One controller, so the buttons were further apart. But that means no motion censoring. So there was oddly about 4 moons that you could not collect, because if you take control of the frog, the very first character you take control of, you have to shake the Wiimotes to make the frog jump extra high. So honestly, there's probably only 2 moons like that where you have to jump really high to get to it. And some of the races, maybe if you were really good at the motion controls, while swimming, shaking the controllers makes you swim faster. But the problem here is because I was using what the Nintendo Switch thought was the Pro controller and didn't have motion controls. Since I was doing that for 20 to 30 hours of playing Mario Odyssey, I don't have any finger motions memorized. Like, I can barely handle the Joy-Cons, let alone smoothly control a character. There is a shocking thing also about Mario Odyssey that I imagine most people wouldn't realize. You don't punch and kick anymore. And that might be an indication that Mario games in the future, maybe even for a good reason, maybe we shouldn't teach kids that punching and kicking exists. But Mario in Odyssey does not punch a single enemy. He doesn't have a button that does that. He does not kick anybody. When he bounces off a wall, it is not him kicking a wall and jumping backwards. It is him clinging to a wall and jumping backwards, pushing off the wall, not kicking. There's been this subtle removal of violence. You still jump on the heads of enemies, so there's still a little bit there. And you really couldn't make a Mario game feel like a Mario game without it. But yeah, the standard Mario 64 punching and kicking is gone. I guess technically you weren't punching and kicking in any of the 2D Mario games. You were only jumping on heads. So it's more in line with the history. Let's play one game here. But it was a bit of a shock, certainly, to see that. Hey, we've got a new indication. Win in your gain rank. They really are adding features that should have been here in day one, but I really am not going to complain about Konami being surprised by their own success. But it is also telling to say that I did not play any of New Super Mario Bros. U on the Switch. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I just get bored with that game and just give it away without even finishing it. But I'll try and find some free time and finish it. But yeah, Odyssey in comparison is just way better. So auto, card position is auto, activation order. What I'd like is let's see. No option here to what I would really like is that it would not make me draw. Because that's the thing that I feel like is the most wasteful process. We'll try and go through some of the news the old-fashioned way. Spike Chunsoft has launched a real-time mystery called Hidden Bats as a visual novel. Real-time mystery. It's in real time on Twitter and other websites. So it's one of those. Interesting. And I have to assume that this is all advertisement for some Spike Chunsoft visual novel, like AI, the Somnium Files is what they're saying it's related to. And yeah, we have some games that have come out, and I'm gonna curate a lot of this. Like this game, Find the Cat. I couldn't yesterday dismiss immediately. Today I can, which just really, I think, indicates how different my mindsets are. Or Elephant's Graveyard here. I couldn't dismiss yesterday. Today I can. Here we have something called Wii RPG. Doesn't look quite interesting enough. And I have a ton of these I need to go through, but a ton of these also I'm gonna do off screen. Here we have an LGBTQ visual novel called Call Me Under, which looks fine, but it's not really my cup. It's not that great looking. I don't know. I would be fine with playing actually a game like that. Let's see. And this is not working. See what happens here. Gonna try and see if this works. So now we have 3 cards. And then that didn't do anything. Seems like everything is just getting canceled. See. Contribute this card and target one monster you control. It can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects this turn. Just end the turn. I don't think anything I'm gonna do is gonna win there. Here we have a game on Steam called Crowns and Pawns, which looks like it's a point-and-click animation. It looks nicely animated for point-and-click animations. I'm still not 100% sure what animation style is the right one for a point-and-click. This looks like this is a very decent attempt, certainly, as an animation style. You can't go too fancy and make a point-and-click, otherwise the game gets too short. You can't go too ugly, otherwise people don't play it. So I'm going to put that on the follow list. Let's try this, I suppose. Let's see, we have a game on Steam here called Ampersand, which I've seen a game similar to this, where it uses just symbols and such, but this looks a little bit better animated. So I'm gonna put it on the fall list as a comparison game. I don't know if I really would say yes to either one of them though, as far as rogue clones. Here we have Fix Me Up's Hospital Edition, which we've seen mobile games like this, and usually these seem to be oddly scammy, targeted at very young kids, and perhaps very inappropriate in what it's showing. You'd almost want there to be a good version of this. It's $2.99. It doesn't have microtransactions, but then you also see it's bundled with a lot of other game clones, and at that you have to say no. Yeah, I'm not willing to support somebody that's just intentionally making clones of mobile games or ports of mobile games. Let's see. Wish there was a timer that would just automatically cancel those. Alright, well, I'm doomed now, I suspect. He's got enough. Not quite enough to win, but a decent amount nonetheless. I basically gave this card to him, so I need to be smarter about how this activates in the future. And see, this would have been the victory, so unless we get a network disconnect or something, I'll have to struggle again to go up rank. We got a game on Steam here called Chefy Chef, which looks like it's a platformer with some collectibles. It may not be the most difficult platformer out there, so I'm going to give it a follow for that reason. Also, the idea of running around and having to collect ingredients in a platformer is an interesting twist. Here we have something called Give the People What They Want, which is a VR game that's not particularly animated well and too cheap at $3.99. Yeah, what I'm not really seeing, what I have yet to see is any adult games. So it would be kind of weird if in the past 2 weeks there hasn't been a single anime girl puzzle game or a single adult game or anything like that, but it could have happened. I'll just have to do research and look at, I'm gonna have to go through what's on Steam, and I'll just go through it back 2 weeks, and anything that's interesting I'll talk about. Anything that's not interesting I'll just skip. Arguably, instead of automating and looking at every single game that comes out on Steam, which that chain certainly has been broken now, it might be better to okay, that did nothing. Let's see. Target a face-up card and destroy it's not going to be good enough. That's no good. That's the final one. Okay, so you summon this one. And then you want this one last. So then you summon this one. And then you summon this one. And then you summon this one. Let's see. Gains the attack of all the monsters. Yeah, I don't think that was right. Because these things didn't have attacks, did they? Ooh, yeah. So that was a pretty stupid move, I think. Still haven't learned it. Here we have a game on Steam called Everblade, which looks like it's not animated quite good enough to catch my attention as a platformer hack and slash game. It looks like it's getting there. 1274, Rogue Legacy 2, by the way, also out of beta. So I'm going to say no to that one. Here we have a game called Element War 2, which looks like it's a strategy game, RTS. Not quite interesting enough. Also looks like it might have some tower defense elements too. So I'm gonna say no to that. I have about 5 more games in particular. Here we have a deck building grid based movement game called Ardor. This is probably no, but I'm gonna put it on the follow list just to say, check on that later. I don't want to lean too much into just putting everything on the follow list. Here we have something called Rhythmic Keyboard, which the idea of typing and keyboarding, not a terrible thought, but it is also not visually music-based typing game. It's not really how you need to learn how to type, and it looks like a big neon mess visually. Here we have a DigiPen student project, I assume, called Shadowbringer. That looks like a real game, certainly, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put that on the wish list if I ever actually get around to showing off student projects. We do have Adorable Witch 3 here, which clearly at some point there's a version of this where those girls are topless, but doesn't seem like that's really what the actual game is. It looks like it's really just a more generic physics game, a garbage game. They're calling it an idler. Ooh, it does have an adult patch though, so yeah. Interesting. See, I'm trying to change the phases here to see if that would trigger him to have to act, and maybe then he would disconnect and I could get a free victory here. I'm trying to be very cheap and cheaty on this. This is an interesting way they phrase this. All characters involved in pornography are over the age of 18. Almost never is a game described using the phrase pornography. Because you don't want to create that legal precedence of admitting it's pornography, since it's such a nebulous term legally. So yeah, there's at least one game with an adult patch. So clearly it's not 100% out of the picture that adult games. Apparently if I win, I'll still gain a rank. Here we have a game called Terra Puzzle 3D, which is just a 3D puzzle of a globe, which Terran, this is the Terran solar system, I believe is what it's called, that we live in. You want to be specific about it. Let's just summon this guy. Let's just be normal and summon a character. Interesting. Fire formation. Give me this one. We don't know what this one is, but whatever. You can send this card from your hand battlefield. Nope, I don't think I want to do anything else. I'm just going to leave it there. We don't see a lot of 3D puzzles, so oddly this is going to get a follow. I don't think I'd ever actually buy a 3D puzzle in a digital form factor, but it is an oddity compared to the many flat screen, flat 2D puzzles on Steam. Here we have a game called Eternal Edge Plus. Yeah, there might be something to this. Enough to give it a follow. I'm surprised I was even still logged in. Yeah, I'm trying to keep an ear out for any audio stuttering issues or anything like that, but yeah, that is kind of hard to believe. Like, if there were any audio stuttering happening right now, it might just be because I have no RAM. Here we have a Uina Fireworks visual novel, which again looks like it at least has some moe girls. English not supported, Chinese and Japanese and Korean. No adult content warning, so I suspect this one probably leans on lewd, not nude mentality. And then we have a game called Tim Tim 2, The Almighty Gnome, which looks like an 8-bit NES game, and I guess I'm still just generally excluding from consideration anything that looks like an 8-bit NES game. $3.59. This might be somebody else's style, certainly, as far as games on Steam. And then we've got some GameDeveloper.com. Development of Ubisoft's Prince of Persia remake has been moved to Montreal studio. I think Ubisoft may be up for purchase again, or at risk of being acquired again, and yeah, there is a thought that Ubisoft, maybe the owner of Ubisoft, has decided to potentially give up the ghost and potentially allow for a sale of Ubisoft, to just kind of abandon it. Because at a certain point, the Ubisoft CEO had like 2 of his sons working on it, and it was kind of a family business, and it's just not the case anymore. And there's been all that bad press around Ubisoft and all that trouble around Ubisoft that wouldn't make a lot of sense to potentially give up that ghost and sell. I think the CEO is pretty old. But yeah, that's really just speculation on my part. Warcraft Arclight Rumble has been announced for iOS and Android, which it's one of those mobile games that you just play where the characters are always coming and you're always trying to push towards a target. It's not particularly special as far as I can tell visually, and it's just going to have that Warcraft name on it, which maybe it's better now to abuse the Warcraft name before Microsoft owns it and potentially cancels the mobile game. I imagine they won't cancel it as much as they'll just release it with very little interest and then never really update it. Let's see. Moving on. GameDeveloper.com says New York City has filed its own lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. This is one of the weird things about cities owning the pensions of teachers and first responders, and then them buying companies and being shareholders around things. There's an update to this Activision postman. We disagree with the allegations made in the complaint and look forward to presenting our arguments in court. But yeah, there's definitely more people upset about the Activision Blizzard sale than most mergers, where shareholders often are are very happy for mergers and acquisitions because it usually makes them a decent amount of money. I'm not actually sure how it works if you're a shareholder and your company gets purchased. I assume you get the cash money put into your portfolio, and then your portfolio automatically, more than likely, has permission just to reinvest that cash money into other stocks. I don't think it's usually a share for share split. I don't think if you owned Activision Blizzard stock, all of a sudden you own Microsoft stock. But maybe sometimes it is that way, and maybe you do then get some kind of discounted in to own Microsoft stock. But yeah, I imagine there's different ways it goes, and you have to actually pay attention to your shares a lot more than most people, I think, would, to really know how that worked. The other thing that happened, and this is arguably not video game related at all. It certainly affects people who work in the game industry, but it's just not touching on video games. It's not within a mile touching within video games, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But a draft letter was leaked out that said that they're getting very close. The Supreme Court of the United States is getting very close to overturning Roe versus Wade. This is something that I know a lot of people screamed and hollered about being something that could happen, and I personally did not take it seriously enough, obviously, because now it seems like it potentially really will happen. So, yeah. As far as video game companies, I'm sure almost all of them will condemn overturning Roe versus Wade. Almost certainly there will be no video game that comes out publicly and supports overturning Roe versus Wade. Video game companies being particularly more left-leaning and liberal than even an average Democrat would be, I would argue. So yeah, I assume what will happen there is video game companies will be upset about it, other people will be upset about it, and then we'll see what happens otherwise. But it's not like video game companies have power to do anything there. Right. Send, I guess, one of these to the graveyard. Banish this from the graveyard. Alright. Keep on activating things. Add this to my hand, I guess. Activating that probably was the safe move. But yeah, until there's like real news, whether Roe versus Wade gets actually overturned, there's really no reason for video game news journalists or self-appointed video game news journalists to talk about it. So I'll try not to. Moving on. Fortnite has returned to iOS with a little help from Xbox Cloud Gaming. So it'll be interesting to see how many people go back after it feels like it's been at least 6 months since Fortnite was removed from iOS Apple products. I would have to assume that people either stopped playing Fortnite or found a different way to play Fortnite since then. And so Like, I would think it would be weird for people to even know, kids to even figure out that, oh, if I get this Xbox Cloud Gaming streaming service, that would let me play Fortnite again on my cell phones. This guy will gain a rank if he wins, but I won't. Interesting. So now you're given an indication of how to help other people if you want to help other people. That's interesting. Let's see. GameDeveloper.com says the FTC is reportedly scrutinizing Sony's purchase of Bungie, which, okay. Of course, what they're actually getting there is not as much as you would think. Because the actual people that worked on Halo have long since left Bungie. Discard that. Get that. Is there any reason to even exchange? I don't think there is. I think the trick here is you get 2 or 3 cards on the field, then you start to summon up. Let's see. Nakon's Milan area studios has united under a new label, Nakon Studios Milan. So check that out, I guess, if you're interested. Microsoft might have an Xbox streaming puck on the way, which, okay, that makes sense. Update. Yeah, update here is they don't comment on rumors and speculation. Very basic statement. The At Legend streaming puck as a physical device is very nice looking, so I could see Microsoft making something like that and it being kind of a major way to cheaply get into the Xbox gameplay. The other thing, and this was on Linus Tech Tips, is he wants to have one Xbox Series X controlled in multiple places, and the proprietary Bluetooth receivers can't really be really repeated or extended. So if Microsoft had their puck also be able to local play that way, then that might be an interesting way to twist things around. So we would look for something that is 2300. Yeah, let's just start with this one. See, once per turn you can also XYZ. Let's activate this effect and see if this works. Attach this. Select the monster I control. And add the card here. So did I just detach? Trigger my own trap here. see if this works. See, in that case, this totally should have been done differently. Let's see. Okay, well, let's try this. Then 2,300, 3,000. It did get me where I wanted to go, I suppose. Try big. Try brigade. Will not activate his effect. We will activate this effect. We'll activate this effect without knowing what it does. Go ahead and return that to the deck. Go ahead and send that to the graveyard. We have a couple of fall list games here, like this Rubicon: A Conspiracy of Silence. Seems to be around Eric Snowden somewhat, or inspired by Eric Snowden. But you can see this came out October 2021. Nobody's played it, so this can leave the fall list. I'm gonna have to really choose to move forward here. This will probably be the last game we play today. I don't know if I really want to stream tomorrow. It'll be up in the air, certainly, whether I stream tomorrow or not. We have this game, Royal Age Battle of Kings, which is still early access from 2021. I'm going to give it some more time. We have a Pinball Panic, which I'll give more time to. Rover Mechanic Simulator, is it out of early access? Yes. It's fine. It's very positive, although barely at that as far as the Steam DB rating. I'll put that on the wish list. Rough Cuts Night of the Living Dead. I don't think is relevant enough. Like, I recently actually sat through and watched The Night of the Living Dead. It's a fine movie if you can bear to sit through it, but it's not really that good that you would want to play it in an interactive form. And I think it's public domain because they screwed up the copyright claims on it, and that's why you'd have a version of this game, which I guess that gives me an excuse. So for 99 cents, I'll put this on the wish list just as, hey, if you want to do something really different, try that. Here we have one called Rogue Wars from 2020, which clearly can leave the follow list. And Roy's Restaurant Deluxe can leave the fall list. I think I already removed these, I just wasn't able to close the tabs. Roots of Tomorrow looks like a free-to-play farming simulator, English not being supported, and I assume that there would be some microtransactions, but apparently not. It's a shame. The idea of a farming simulator is not the worst idea. Probably should be a mobile game though, instead of a PC game. Okay, we have a dark walking simulator called Rydo. It passes the positivity. It's out of early access, so I'll give it to the wish list. Special summon, okay. Special summon. I guess our biggest ones. Special summon that. Apparently I can just keep on special summoning things. And let's see, what is this ability? Let's just do it. Still not really sure what that does either. Yeah, I think on that victory, while this doesn't get us up to gold, I think because I'm just running out of time here, that's really where I'm gonna leave this. Okay. So how far did that get me on daily quest? Which is gonna be kind of a nightmare now. Did we get most of these done? Yeah. Declare an attack on a monster. Do a little bit more damage. I could get those done, but not big deal. And then solo mode, I need to deal with it at a different time. And that puts us at 1900. So we're in a good position there. And I think we have covered pretty much everything. Did we need to spectate? They've put the Duel Live now in its own separate thing. Start that spectating. Yeah, Rydo we put on the wish list. Room to Grow is rated very positively as a plant pushing puzzle game, so I'm gonna add it to the wish list, I guess. Probably would never get it. Room Prison, one of these, hey, let's have a 3D model and tie them up in Shibari rope bondage games. Only got mixed reviews, so it's gone. It's a shame. I guess fetishes in general are just not really going to be big sellers as far as as far as just low effort games and niche games. Then this brings us back to the start of the old news as far as Activision Blizzard tells shareholders to vote down a request for an annual harassment report, which that is fairly typical in every company, is that they say don't vote for this, it's a waste of money, or we don't want to let bad news come to public. And that's one of those cases where if shareholders in general were ethical people more than not ethical people, they should vote for those kinds of things, but it may cost them money, and most shares are voted by like financial institutes and like accountants, and accountants tend to be have that financial duty, fiduciary duty to try and get as much money as possible no matter what. We don't care if you get it ethically or not, which really makes a great argument that accountants and every citizen should have a different kind of duty, a citizen's duty, a legal requirement to do things that are ethical, although how you legislate ethical is very difficult. Moving on, Activision Blizzard is also accused of threatening staff to halt talks about wages and work conditions. Complaint claims that Activision Blizzard engaged in and is engaging in unfair labor practices. The problem with some of this, though, is that at least one of these complaints has recently been shot down for lack of evidence, and this may very well be cases of people trying to unionize and pushing back and wasting the company's time and energy by making lawsuit claims and complaints just to keep them off kilter, you know. Make it more like a boxing game where you just fake a left jab when you're actually going for an uppercut in the other direction. Square Enix sold off key studios and franchises, including the Tomb Raider and Deus Ex companies, and the rights, I believe, to Tomb Raider and Deus Ex to the Embracer Group. The problem with this, while it sounds like a great idea on paper, is that Embracer Group has yet to really put out a lot of great games. Like the best game you can kind of even mention from Embracer Group that was released under the THQ Nordic Embracer Group concept was Darksiders 3, and that really wasn't that great of a game, and it's just been acquisitions otherwise, and they need to, if they want to keep doing acquisitions, that's fine, but they need to put out some games and have some of their companies actually release something. The former Nintendo of America CEO, Reggie Fils-Aimé, expresses optimism for blockchain tech. I don't feel like he's really ready to retire at this point. He wrote his book, but I feel like he's going to jump back and run some company. I wouldn't be surprised even if he ends up running like Sony or something. Australia's first union for game workers will launch this weekend. Game Workers Unite Australia will officially relaunch as Game Workers Australia on May 1st, which I don't know really what the situation as far as unions are in Australia, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a very different situation compared to the United States. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe sells over 100,000 copies on Steam in less than 24 hours, which is interesting. Certainly, if I had a computer that was working, I may have considered playing that or even playing it early and live streaming it, but I really wasn't leaning to that and probably wouldn't get around to playing it for quite a long time. Epic Games, on the other hand, has been hit by a National Labor Review Board discrimination complaint by former job applicants. It's, I would suspect, harder to sue for not getting a job than it is to say, I worked at this place and I have all these emails and evidence that shows I didn't get a raise or I didn't get a promotion. Although, frankly, probably wouldn't be a terrible concept to straight up put a complaint, a discrimination complaint, to every single person that didn't hire you if you honestly believe there was discrimination there. Honestly, maybe even if you didn't believe there was discrimination there, just really punish people for not hiring, because as much as companies go, oh, people don't want to work, there's been decades of companies that literally don't really want to hire anybody. They want to hire a theoretical perfect being. They don't want to hire someone that is actually reasonable for the amount of pay and the hours you're giving them, or they don't want to hire people at all, and It's just HR people pretending like their job is important, or it's just managers pretending like their job um, is important. And there's also a lot of people that they want to hire but don't want to keep people, and had entire business strategies around keep them for 30 days, then replace them, then hire somebody else for 30 days, which is not really ethical to promise someone a job and then pull the rug out from under them due to no fault of their own. Uh, Activision Blizzard shareholders approved the Microsoft acquisition offer. Hmm. Which, yeah, I think in general that was going to be the case. It would have been very shocking if they had rejected the offer. Um, Yuji Naka claims he was removed as the director of Balan Wonderworld before it crash landed. This came out right as my computer was breaking. Although, one of the things he's putting on Twitter, and as a Japanese person, slandering his former Square Enix people is basically unheard of, unprecedented actions. But yeah, from what I'm getting, the things he was saying on Twitter as far as things he would have improved does not really feel like it would have improved Balan Wonderworld that much. So I would probably suspect that he was removed kind of from good reason, because he was obsessed with the tiny details and not making a cohesive, actually good video game, and wouldn't have made a cohesive video game had he been left to his own devices. Microsoft is going to host an Xbox Bethesda game showcase in June. Excuse me. Call of Duty's latest anti-cheat measure, cloaking, leaves cheaters helpless. Characters, bullets, and even sounds from legitimate players will be undetected to characters. Um, Undetectable to cheaters. So if you get labeled a cheater, and that's the way you really should look at this, because there's too high of a percentage of people out there claiming that they are labeled cheaters in particularly Call of Duty games, if I'm recalling correctly. Uh, but if you get labeled a cheater, you're basically a sitting duck, because you can't see the characters, the bullets, or even the sounds. So people can just walk up to you and hit you, which is effectively, you might as well just disconnect the cheater at that point and save yourself the time, instead of, but maybe keeping them in the game waste their time, and maybe that's your goal. It doesn't sound like it's been fully thought out as a concept, but I am not thinking it out all as a concept either. Meta burned apparently 2.96 billion on Reality Labs last quarter, to manifest the metaverse. The BBC will host its first ever gaming prom at the Royal Albert Hall later this year, which I assume is probably going to be more around playing music from video games than actually talking about video games. Being at the Royal Albert Hall, being an opera house, basically. Which I've seen several of them, and they never really are that interesting when you come from that concept of, here's an orchestra that you really don't care about playing a few select songs of a games you might care about, but you probably aren't even going to really recognize the music um, outside of the context of playing the game. And a lot of times when these things happen, it really feels like it's just the orchestra is trying to bring in fresh blood, and they know that people that go to orchestra presentations tend to be really, really old, and maybe they're trying to teach them a few new songs, but it's probably not what someone who's in their 70s or 80s wants to hear. There's similar things as far as anime concerts, where, yeah, if you try to play anime music to people who don't know anime, it's not going to be that interest. They're not going to be interested in it. And if you're going to try and play a song from an anime show or movie, it's going to have to be very iconic for me to even recognize it or place it. Um, and honestly, I feel like if you take the soundtrack from Akira, for instance, which is a great soundtrack, and you play it in an opera house, you've really just devalued Akira as an anime, because movies and anime in particular, it's audio and visual medium, and when you take one and separate it apart, you're making something worse, not better. Uh, I don't want to listen to the Akira soundtrack separately. I want to watch Akira and listen to the soundtrack as I see the visuals. Um, yeah, it would be better just to have a full showing of the movie. Let's see. GameDeveloper.com says here are the 9 titles that made the 2022 Tribeca Game selection. Uh, which, let's see, what are they? Plague Tale Requiem, American Arcadia, As Dusk Falls, Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, Immortality, Oxenfree, Lost Signals, Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals, The Cub, and Thirsty Suitors in Vinba. So I imagine what we'll do today, I've been going 2.5 hours, is we'll go through the GameDeveloper.com old stuff, and then I need to go pick up that TV. So that'll just be the end of the stream. I think this probably leaves me safe enough to leave things alone for Wednesday and just have a stream on Wednesday and a stream on Friday. And that'll mostly catch me up. Um, After Friday, if everything's still working, I will um, I will send back my graphics card and try and get that shipped over the course of next week. Uh, I'll send out, try to get approved for it. Um, and then I think I probably won't do any pre-recording also on the 970 with this amount of RAM. It's just kind of ridiculous to do this. We are in maintenance mode definitely. So I'll spend another week finishing up other side projects while live streaming. Let's see, Devil May Cry 5 has topped 5 million sales worldwide, which it seems like it's been fairly slow to get those kinds of announcements when we really should have gotten those more often. PlayStation has formed a game preservation team, which is great, but honestly, that should have been in existence decades ago, around the PlayStation 2 or 3 launch, not now. And arguably, saying you formed a preservation team now makes you very much wonder, have they been throwing away code? Have they been getting rid of all of their valuable creations as PlayStation up until this point? How much lost code really is involved in that? A report says Netflix games roster will include almost 50 titles by the end of 2022, although I think these are all the Netflix games that are just going to be installable through the Netflix app on a cell phone, not actually playable on Netflix or Netflix streaming devices. Um, Microsoft Xbox hardware revenue grew 14% in the third quarter of 2022, which is actually kind of surprising, but I guess maybe there was a bit of a shortage as far as Xbox hardware. There's been major shortages, certainly, for the PlayStation 5 still. Games for Health publisher Duel has hired Kate Edwards as the head of global outreach and readiness. I've never heard of Games for Health. Sounds like it might be a publisher of some kind of trade journal or magazine. But yeah, never heard of it. Sega will delist the Sonic games that appear in Sonic Origins on May 20th. which, okay, there's already been controversy around that, certainly, and it definitely seems like a dumb idea. Game Freak is implementing an optional 4-day week to help with childcare. Game Freak would be a Japanese company, I suspect. Yeah. So this is, unless I'm just totally confused as to where Game Freak is, um, that seems very weird that a Japanese company would implement a 4-day work week. Although a lot of companies are saying, hey, we're going to a 4-day work week, but it's still going to be 40 hours a week. So it's really just a bait and switch tactic to say, hey, you have to work longer hours per day, but you get one more day off. When the actual progress that needs to happen is we need to get down to a 32-hour work week being the average, the standard, instead of a 40-hour work week. And we need to slowly reduce the number of hours people actually have to work, as we realize that most people are not even doing much. That they're doing somewhere around 20 hours, I suspect, of actual work a week, anyways, and the rest of it is just all wasted time in meetings or twiddling their thumbs. Apparently, timed game trials are now a requirement for some PlayStation developers. Uh, the for games that to be included in the PlayStation Plus premium plans, which, okay, I guess that's a small step in the right direction. I would suspect that's good news. Um, I could see a lot of like low effort mobile games if Steam Direct games were required to have um, even shorter than 2 hour, uh, well, no, even longer than 2 hours, no question asked, refund policies. That really wouldn't be terrible either, to say, hey, you can't just make a game that is 2 hours long and and then dispute refunds. You have to make a game now that's 4 hours long, and that probably wouldn't affect too many low effort asset flippers. They probably wouldn't care anyways, um, but certainly that is some some level of improvement that you could try, on Steam, although almost certainly they won't do it. Um, Crytek apparently will let some employees work from home permanently, which is good for them. We are definitely getting some good news. Sony rolled out a variable refresh rate support for the PlayStation 5. It says this week, but that was April 26th. Variable refresh rate, a nice G-Sync equivalent option, but it seems to be very specific per game. And I don't know how many TVs, besides maybe some Sony Bravia TVs, actually would support that specific standard. Uh, Nintendo has delayed the Super Mario Bros. Movie until 2023. Ubisoft has shut down its online service for over 90 older titles. The move has affected multiple entries in the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Just Dance franchises, which this is definitely the news that made me think that Ubisoft is potentially giving up the ghost. Um, Vast majority of the games are affected, older releases for PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U. Um, so it's not really affecting modern consoles. But the number 90 is a big number, and um, certainly I could see some people being irritated by that. A significant amount, though, of the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Just Dance online service was garbage to start with. And if anything, this is Ubisoft admitting that games as service concept is not a concept worth maintaining and doing, and it's definitely not a concept that consumers should support. Um, Blizzard Entertainment's mobile game Diablo Immortal will also run on PC. I don't know if that really makes you want to come to play it though. Because, yeah, I don't know if Diablo Immortal is just a remake of Diablo. I don't think that's what it is. I think it is more of a mobile game looking at this interface and more of a different experience. I might check it out on PC, but I doubt I would. Um, I doubt I'd put a lot of effort into it. BioWare Edmonton contract employers file to unionize. So more steps towards unionization. Uh, Inflation has hit the EVE Online's in-game currency and subscription pricing. Also, EVE Online apparently is doing a collab with Microsoft Excel, kind of as a joke. It was announced, but it's a real thing, I think. And EVE Online players seem to love it. Valheim has sold 10 million copies in just over a year, which I've completely forgotten that Valheim even exists. Activision Blizzard's earnings were hampered by waning Call of Duty Vanguard engagement. Dying Light 2 has sold 5 million copies during its launch month. Also, everyone who owns Dying Light 1 can upgrade to the enhanced edition. I need to double check that I've done that, certainly. Apple has warned some App Store developers that their outdated apps will be pulled from sale. This is something I think we covered about, but basically, if you haven't updated it in the last 2 years, they're going to pull them from sale, which is one way to clean up your store, but probably a pretty ham-fisted way of doing it. The National Labor Review Board has greenlight the unionization vote for Raven Software's quality assurance um, workers, which that is a story that's been going on for quite a long time, and it probably highlights how it takes at least 6 months to even start the process to unionize. It's a long, hard fight, certainly, against a corporation that really doesn't want its employees to unionize. Apparently, you can sort of make your own vampire in Vampire the Masquerade, which okay, whatever that has, whatever that means, I don't know. But I'll leave that article to you if you're interested. A judge has knocked down PlayStation's gender discrimination lawsuit over a lack of facts. So this was the story where the claim was dismissed. They did not allege any specific facts. They simply recited the elements of the claim. So this could probably be refiled by a better lawyer or an actual lawyer, I would suspect. Um, Frog Wars has indefinitely delayed the Xbox One version of Sherlock Holmes due to the Russian invasion, which I'm surprised we haven't had more people claim things are permanently or temporarily delayed due to the Russian invasion, which is still going on. Again, uh, nothing's changed on that front in 2 weeks. That being said, I'm not 100% sure that I believe that Frogwares wasn't ever really going to uh, come out with an Xbox One version of Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 because Frogwares has been kind of embroiled in this whole in controversy, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were having this fight with their publisher, and I never really got the story whether it was Frogwares or the publisher that really were at fault or both. But certainly a game is suffering. Embracer Group acquired Perfect World and now has rebranded Perfect World as Gearbox Publishing, which definitely makes it seem like they are leaning towards Im- implying that they're going to label more things as Gearbox. There already was a Gearbox Publishing, so what happened to that Gearbox Publishing, I don't know. Um, see, Perfect World published Hyperlight Breaker, Star Trek Online, Neverwinter, and Torchlight 3. Um, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more things labeled Gearbox uh, instead of Perfect World. I think Perfect World Entertainment also was a Chinese company. It definitely rings a bell in my mind that it was a Chinese company and it had kind of a bad reputation, not just because it was Chinese, but in part just because it was in Chinese, but also because it released some pretty bad games. Torchlight 3, I think, was one of those really different from Torchlight 1 and 2 games that was kind of more of a mobile type game, it felt like, if I'm recalling correctly. Gearboxes has uh, Gearbox has revived Telltale's Tales from the Borderlands series. Um, so they're going to make another Tales from the Borderlands series, which definitely makes sense. And clearly there was a Gearbox announcement because Gearbox also acquired the actual creators of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, um, which may be more indication that the people who actually worked on the original Borderlands at the original Gearbox in Frisco, Texas, are being sidelined more and more as they just acquire more things and call more things Gearbox in favor um, of making this conglomeration. Like Gearbox Montreal, another statement in that direction, certainly, where now when something is labeled Gearbox, you really aren't going to have a clue who, what team or who is actually working on those games. Let's see, Raf Coster's Playable Worlds raised 25 million for its cloud-based MMO. Not heard of this uh, person or this game, this company, Playable Worlds. A campaign to halt negative stories on Bobby Kotick allegedly involved Activision Blizzard staff. Activision Blizzard employees might have been tasked to help squash an outlet's reporting on a restraining order filed against the CEO Bobby Kotick and his ex-girlfriend. Which, yeah, we're still getting pretty bad news about Bobby Kotick even as the acquisition seems to go forward. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga tops 3.2 million sales in 2 weeks. Also, the uh, some DLC is now available. The May the 4th Be With You events happened. And actually, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was actually a pretty good deal that day. $10 off a pretty brand new game. Um, but yeah, definitely sounds like this is a great game and a great place to start to restart a next generation of playing Lego Star Wars games. Yeah, here's the story I was talking about. Gearbox has acquired the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands co-developer Lost Boys. They worked on other notable franchises such as Call of Duty and PUBG. This definitely feels like this might have been a case where the Lost Boys did the majority of the work and then got acquired, or they did at least half the work and got acquired. Uh, which again, what is the actual original Gearbox team working on? And you can't even really blame Randy Pitchford at this point. Randy Pitchford has managed to shut up publicly, and if he was doing something awful privately, nobody is coming out and saying it. If anything, it seems like he's totally focused on the movie, uh, the Borderlands movie. So, yeah, I have no idea why there isn't a team that's hard working on something, and maybe they are hard working on something and they just can't talk about it. And that's the case. That is a possibility, certainly. Let's see. Koei Tecmo is going to increase the base salary of its staff in Japan by 23%, which sounds like a nice little raise. It's a nice start, at least. Probably Monsters has netted 250 million to bolster development studios. Probably Monsters, I assume, is the people who made Sometimes Always Monsters and Always Sometimes Monsters, which, yeah, 2 RPG games by that name. If not, then I have no idea what they've made. It was established by former Bungie president and CEO Harold Ryan. Maybe they haven't made anything at all at this point. Yeah, Actually, it sounds like they haven't actually made anything at all. Bluehole will shut down the long-running MMO Terra in June. I'm sure that will affect people still playing that. I don't know how many people are still playing it. Atari has cut ties with the CryptoBiz partner, but will mint new tokens itself soon. Also, I saw that there might be a Lego expert set of an Atari console, and I'm gonna have to think long and hard about whether I really care about making a Lego set to look like the Atari console, considering I never owned one and don't really care about it. Going down the route of potentially having a Lego model of every single first generation game console sounds kind of silly. Epic Games invested in the 3D scanning company MXR. I guess not confused with the YouTuber MXR, which I think his account may have been shut down on YouTube finally. The one that would do Skyrim mods of adult nature all the time. Chris Novak, Xbox's head of research and design, departs Microsoft after 20 years. That's probably not a big loss. I mean, it's probably just a retirement thing. I imagine they're fine as far as their next steps for their next generation of consoles. Investors are claiming Activision misled them over misconduct probes. Investors who were claiming Activision misled them over misconduct probes had their lawsuit dismissed. So, as we've heard, several new lawsuits, a couple of them have been dismissed. One More Games netted $22 million to create a debut title, Spellcraft, which I think we had already talked about that 2 weeks ago. Marty O'Donnell says he and Microsoft amicably resolved their legal issues. Yeah, we talked about that. Skydance New Media announces a new Star Wars game with Amy Hennig. Okay. And then Nintendo and its staffing partner was hit with a National Labor Review Board complaint. And let's see. Okay. So that leaves me kind of in a decent place as far as catching up on the news. There is still Video Games Chronicles and game developer, not gamedeveloper.com, but Video Games Chronicles and Gamatsu articles, and a lot of those may be redundant, certainly, but we'll think we can stream on Wednesday. I'm gonna lean towards streaming on Wednesday, and as a stream, I don't know what to say here. Like, I did seem like I was able to stream, even though I have had about 53% of the network frames dropped. Maybe there's a driver issue happening with my network connector. I don't know. Or maybe there's just a problem right now with YouTube. But what didn't happen here is I didn't hear any micro stuttering or staggering on my computer. I didn't see any black flashes or screen stuttering. I didn't get any lockups or hitches. So the computer seems like it's mostly working, with the network possibly not being my computer's fault. So that at least that's a step in the right direction. And yeah, we didn't really play a lot, but we got the daily quest done, and that's all that needed to happen as far as Yu-Gi-Oh! And we got through a third of the news, which is about as much as I can hope for. So that's going to be it for this stream. Thank you for watching. If you did watch, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. I'm still sticking with Twitter at the moment. I honestly hope that Elon Musk somehow gets the right people in charge of Twitter, that it actually becomes a better product and not a worse one. Um, yeah, and if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, assuming the Patreon is active at the moment, and or you could just friend me on Steam and get me a gift card or a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.